One who inhabits the quantum world observes the being that hosts it and perceives it as incomprehensible in its incalculable vastness. Understanding, in this context, is limited to what can be grasped within boundaries that are gradually broken throughout the investigation. The human being, confined to an as-yet limited science, does not recognize itself as an integral part of a quantum world, nor does it identify itself as a quantum louse within the dimension it inhabits. The human being itself is, in and of itself, a universe that hosts other equally limited beings, which perceive it as a cosmos that is likewise incomprehensible. Human reasoning, the result of investigation, deduction, or mere speculation, tends to apply to entities of other dimensions, larger or smaller, the same physical laws of the dimension it occupies. This projection reveals a cognitive limitation, the difficulty of conceiving realities governed by laws different from those it knows. When the elements of one physics collide with those of another, the partiality and temporality of human science become evident. Terrestrial physics, however advanced it may be, still operates within a limited scope of dimensions and observable phenomena. When observing extraterrestrial phenomena or creatures, terrestrial physics is commonly applied as a reference to explain their movements and interventions in the solar system or in visible space. However, this approach ignores the possibility that such beings operate in realities governed by quantum or multidimensional laws. Some theories suggest that beings from other dimensions employ principles of quantum physics, such as entanglement, superposition, and quantum tunneling, to carry out appearances, displacements, and interactions with the reality of human manifestation. This would imply that their manifestations do not follow linear or continuous trajectories, but rather probabilistic jumps between possible states. M-theory, for example, proposes a universe composed of 11 dimensions, of which only 4 are directly observable. The others would be compactified at microscopic scales, invisible to current instruments. Within this structure, entities could exist in parallel dimensions, accessing human reality through interactions that defy classical logic. Furthermore, interpretations such as the many-worlds view or quantum decoherence suggest that multiple realities coexist and that the act of observation may collapse possibilities into a single perceptible experience. This opens space for speculation about appearances of beings that do not belong to the human space-time continuum, but that interact with it at specific moments. Contemporary ufology, although still marginalized by part of the scientific community, is beginning to incorporate these ideas. There are those who argue that so-called UFOs are not physical craft, in the traditional sense, but manifestations of intelligences operating at different frequencies or dimensions, accessing the human world through quantum breaches. All of this, however coherent it may seem, reveals to the manifested being the possibility of imperceptible, and therefore incomprehensible movements, of beings that inhabit expanded dimensions. In the same way, it allows the being to understand that creatures which transit within it also make use of a science that is equally incomprehensible. These creatures, in turn, do not understand the science that the manifested being uses to move within the dimension in which it is inserted. To each dimension is granted the science that corresponds to it. The good news is that knowing them lies in the very nature of the being that dares to break its own limits.